You do not need to reach God because you have never left Him. Just 1 second without ego, you and He are one. When we talk about silence, our minds often picture a soundless space, a quiet moment separated from the noise of the outside world. However, that is only a superficial veneer of silence. True silence, according to Ramana Maharshi, is not the absence of sound, but the absence of the ego. Silence does not reside in a particular place or an external condition. It is the primordial ground of all existence, the origin before the material world, before all thoughts, and before the I that is experiencing. Ramana Maharshi did not define God as a distant entity or an image to be worshipped. He profoundly affirms, God is not a form to be seen, not an idea to be understood. God is pure presence, wordless, limitless, unconditioned. When the mind is completely still, God is immediately known. This is not an abstract philosophy, but the key to enlightenment, if you really listen with your heart. What you have been searching for through decades of meditation, through thousands of hours of chanting, or months of prayer, is actually just a breath away, if in that moment, there is no longer any presence of the ego to act or desire. You do not have to practice long enough or be worthy to be able to touch God. On the contrary, the moment you are completely present, when there is no longer an I in the mind to assert itself, you and God are one. Touching God does not require a lifetime. It only takes a moment, when you are no one, when all definitions of yourself disappear. Silence within, the eternal language of truth. There is something that cannot be expressed in words, that is truth. And Ramana Maharshi, through his own life and presence, demonstrated that. Truth can only be transmitted through absolute silence, no words, no ego, no need. He never lectured, never preached like a scholar. He just sat in deep silence. But no one left that presence without feeling deeply transformed. Because his silence was not a meaningless void, but a field of primordial energy where all egos dissolved, where all questions automatically dropped without any need for answers. He once said, "Truth cannot be expressed. It cannot be learned, it cannot be possessed. Truth can only be lived." And silence is the language of truth. You can study the entire Upanishad, memorize the Bhagavad Gita, analyze every complex spiritual system, but as long as there is a knower, an analyzer, a possessor, the truth will always be outside of you. In just one moment, when you stop trying to understand, stop trying to grasp, when you completely let go of the need to know, and simply be in complete silence, then you and truth become one. An unbelievable truth, yet instantly accessible. You don't have to be awakened in some grandiose sense to achieve this. You just have to stop in the present, not react, not interpret, not try. It is in that effortlessness that you have been seeking that you will find yourself. Ramana Maharshi is not inviting you to a long and arduous journey. He is simply inviting you to stop. Right now. Here. No need to try to meditate deeply. No need to try to achieve anything sublime. Just be completely silent, not with your mouth, but deep within your heart. And in that infinite silence, God is no longer a distant idea. He is you. 1 second without ego, the power beyond 1,000 years of prayer. We imagine reaching God as a long journey, filled with endless efforts, tireless practice, severe trials, and arduous purification. However, Ramana Maharshi completely shattered all those prejudices with a naked, simple, and extremely powerful truth. You do not need to reach God because you have never left Him. Just 1 second without ego, you and He are one. 1 second. No more. Just a brief moment where there is no I to yearn for, no one to seek, no thought to cling to. You will sink into the very thing that the saints spent their whole lives describing. No need to meditate for 10 years. No need to chant a name hundreds of thousands of times. You just need to stop and completely let go of the belief that I am a separate entity that is trying to find something outside of itself. Why is a moment so powerful? Because God is not limited by time. He is not in the past, where you have practiced. He is not in the future, where you aspire to enlightenment. God is the absolute present, beyond all clocks, beyond all processes. Every moment you are not covered by the I is the moment you are in God. Without any intermediary. Without any effort. Ramana Maharshi has profoundly emphasized, you do not need to go anywhere. You just need to let go of the one who is going. Where is the huge power of 1 second? 1 second of not trying to control the emotions, and the emotions naturally calm down. A moment of not thinking about yourself, you are freed from the burden of yourself. A moment of not wanting, you realize that everything is already there. That very moment is temporary enlightenment. If you can stay in it, without letting the ego interfere, it becomes permanent enlightenment. This is not a state that you have to achieve, but the complete dissolution of the seeker. When the seeker is no longer there, the found is naturally revealed. Silence, no need to create, because it is your true self. One of the most common misconceptions on the spiritual journey is, I have to create silence. People often seek meditation, retreat to solitude, away from the noisy world, in the hope of finding inner peace. But Ramana Maharshi turned this notion upside down, revealing a liberating truth. You don't need to create silence. Silence is already you. You just need to stop making noise. Noise doesn't come from outside, it comes from deep within. The real noise is not in the bustling streets, the constant stream of news, or the pressure of work. It's in a mind that keeps telling stories. Who am I? What should I do? Am I right? What am I missing? What am I losing? The noise doesn't belong to the outside world, it belongs to the ego. And when the ego is silent, the whole world becomes quiet even as it reverberates with the sounds of everyday life. You don't need to control your mind, just don't identify with it. Many people often complain, I can't meditate. My mind is too restless. But Ramana does not ask you to force the mind to be silent. He simply points out a simple truth. See the mind as something you are observing, not you. When you are no longer identified with the mind, it may be noisy, it may be quiet, but you are the unchanging silence that lies behind all its activities. You do not have to defeat the mind. You just have to stop believing that it is you. Then silence is not something to be achieved, it is something to be realized. There is nothing to grasp. There is only pure knowing, which is your true being. Silence cannot be possessed, because it is that which sees everything. You cannot possess silence, any more than you can possess sunlight. You just have to not stand in the shade. Shade, that is thinking. That is the ego. Those are the roles you assign to yourself. That is the concept of me. Silence, where all questions disappear and truth reveals itself. Man goes through life with a constant longing, I want to know the meaning of life, to know the path to happiness, to know the purpose of his existence, to know where God resides. to know what awaits him after death? These questions follow one another endlessly, like an eternal river. But as long as you identify yourself with the questioner, any answer, even if it is found, is just another layer of concepts, an endless cycle. Ramana Maharshi does not offer complicated logic, nor does he promise easy solutions. Instead, he holds up a mirror before you and invites you to turn and look at the very person asking the question. Who is asking? Who needs an answer? Where is he? When you really turn back to search, in the most honest way, you will find nothing. The questioner is just an illusion, a shadow of nothingness created by the mind. And when the questioner disappears, the question will disappear too. The truth, no explanation needed, just live fully. There are things that cannot be grasped by the mundane mind. They cannot be fully expressed in words. They can only be become. And silence is the only door to that becoming. When the mind stops in pure observation, there is no one to ask, no one to answer. The greatest answer appears, not in the form of ideas, but in life living itself. Ramana Maharshi, translation. A simple truth, shaking all limits. You can meditate all morning, read 3 chapters of sutras, listen to a profound Dharma talk. But if the mind still has these impulses, still wanting to know more, wanting to grasp something, then you are just a simple seeker. On the contrary, in just one moment, when you are completely silent, without interpretation, without effort, you are completely present, naked, without an eye to ask questions, then in that very silence, all the answers you have been pursuing will disappear, replaced by an empty clarity beyond all words. It is not you know. It is you who become knowing itself. When there are no more questions, there is only eternal truth. Questions are the product of the ego, the impulse of the discriminating mind. The answer, in the conventional sense, is a reward for the ego. But the truth belongs to no one. It is silent, available, not to be understood, only to be seen. And here is the magic. When you stop asking, you begin to see. When you stop wanting to understand, you become the very thing being asked. That is why silence, not words, is the deepest teaching, the greatest dharma of the universe. Touching God, not through words, but through total surrender. Since ancient times, people have established rituals of prayer, chanting of mantras, and worshipping of images, as a way of connecting with God. That in itself is not wrong. But Ramana Maharshi goes straight to the heart of the matter. The mouth may recite his name, the mind may visualize him. But if the ego is there, you are still standing outside of God. He did not deny the value of ritual or tradition, but he illuminated a deeper truth. God is not a concept to be worshipped from afar, not an object to be approached. He is the ground of yourself, and only when you let go of all ideas about yourself, all definitions of I, will you become him. Not more, just less. We often mistakenly think of enlightenment as a state in which we need more light, more understanding, or more special abilities. But Ramana Maharshi taught the opposite. In fact, you are not lacking anything. You only need less belief in your own small self, less attachment to form, less worry about the future. When you no longer strive to become something, you return to your original state, where there is no one to touch God. Only God is present and manifesting through you. God, no need to be met, just be lived. You do not need to contact God as an external object. You just disappear completely, and God will appear. not in a strange light or a supernatural image, but in your own breath, in the stillness deep within you. Ramana does not show you how to meet God. He shows you how to let go of the person who is seeking him. And when that person is gone, God does not need to be proven, for he is all that remains, the only existence. Silence, the nameless absolute power, beyond the concept of gentleness. The silence that Ramana manifests is not to soothe your mind, but to cut it off at its roots. Not a gentle caress, but an invisible sword that cuts through all illusions of I. Silence is not weak, it is so great that it doesn't need to appear strong. Have you ever stood before someone who didn't say a word, didn't try to do anything, but whose presence made you want to cry, or feel like your entire inner self was being stripped bare? Ramana Maharshi was the embodiment of that. He didn't need to preach. He didn't need to show high energy. He simply sat, looked, and the person in front of him was completely stripped of his ego. That power didn't come from any external power. It comes from a form of silence that has no ego, no center, no limits. It is the power of God, but it does not bear the name of God. All powers that have names are temporary and limited. The power of knowledge still depends on the operation of thought. The power of speech still needs a listener to exist. The power of the body still limited by the law of time and aging. Only silence, which does not depend on any conditions or external circumstances, is the unbreakable power, the ultimate source of energy. Ramana did not try to prove anything. His very presence is the most comprehensive answer. An answer so true, so clear, so profound, that it does not need any language to express it. Silence, no action, but collapses all pretense. He did not need sharp reasoning to refute false ideas. He just looked. And that look, like a transparent mirror, automatically made people shed all their defenses. Those who were proud of their knowledge suddenly found it meaningless. Those who thought they had understood the truth suddenly fell silent. Those who thought they were enlightened suddenly melted into tears of repentance. Not because Ramana did anything to them, but because of the silence within him, a spotless mirror, reflecting the ultimate truth. And in that mirror, you cannot lie to yourself. Silence is unguided, but self-guiding to the source. Ramana did not teach any complicated meditation techniques. He did not tell anyone to visualize anything. He simply says, be silent. Ask, who is thinking? Just remain there. And you will see, there is no one. There is only the knowing, nameless, wordless, that you are. In that deep silence, there is no path to walk. There is no one to walk. There is only the light, not coming from any particular source, but shining everywhere, illuminating everything. Truth is not hidden, only hidden by noise. You do not need to climb high to the sacred peaks to find the divine. You do not need to dive deep into the mysterious oceans to find God. You are already in Him, and He is in you, but hidden by the noise of the ego. Silence is the absence of that noise. And when the noise disappears, you do not touch the truth. You see, you never leave it, not even for a moment.